We'll tell you about the main news at the start of the new week, next on Freedom. This is Our Time in the Studio. Nick Halbarato. Hello. The Russian army attacked Zaporizhzhia with guided aerial bombs. According to Ivan Fedorov, the head of the regional military administration, one of the strikes hit the city's industrial infrastructure. At least 7 people were injured. At least 5 apartment buildings were damaged due to the Russian attack. 1 person was killed and 5 were injured as a result of Russian strikes on the Dnipropetrovsk region. Among the injured are 2 children. This was reported by the regional military administration. The Russian army used drones for the attack. In different districts of the region, private and apartment buildings, gas pipelines, administrative buildings, and cars were damaged. Russian occupiers also struck with UAVs. In Dnipro itself, a fire engulfed an administrative building. 3 apartment buildings were damaged. For the 3rd night in a row, Russia has been attacking Fastiv in the Kyiv region. After the latest drone strike, a fire broke out on the roofs of a 3-story and a 1-story building. This was reported by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. The blast wave also damaged a residential building and administrative buildings. Firefighters have already extinguished the blaze. In Akturka, which is in the Sumy region, a residential building caught fire as a result of a Russian drone attack. The fire engulfed apartments from the 2nd to the 5th floors. Rescuers evacuated 35 people and also freed 7 residents, including a child. Due to the threat of repeated attacks, work was temporarily suspended. Nevertheless, rescuers successfully extinguished all sources of fire. Last night, the energy infrastructure of the Donetsk region was targeted by the Russian army. Many residents were left without power, according to Ukrenergo. Emergency repair work is ongoing everywhere that the security situation allows, the company stated. Energy workers are doing everything possible to repair the damaged equipment as quickly as possible. 3 people were injured as a result of the Russian strike on Chernihiv. All the wounded are under medical supervision. The Russian Federation Army attacked the city at night with drones, according to the head of the military administration. Dnipropetrovsk, a kamikaze drone crashed near an apartment building. The blast wave blew out windows and doors, damaged cars, and set a gas pipeline on fire. I would also like to note that during the week from December 1st to 7th, Ukrainian defense forces shot down nearly 200 Russian attack drones over the Chernihiv region. Another 79 were lost from radar tracking. This was reported by Andrei Podovarn, advisor to the head of the regional military administration. According to him, the drones targeted the energy and heating infrastructure of the Chernihiv region, as well as civilian facilities. In total, Ukrainian defenders destroyed 700 Russian drones over the Chernihiv region in November alone. Across Ukraine, Russia launched 149 attack drones of the Shahed, Girin, and other modifications last night. This was reported by the Ukrainian Air Force. A total of 131 UAVs were shot down or suppressed by electronic warfare systems in the north, south, and east of the country. Ukrainian defense forces eliminated 810 Russian occupiers over the past day. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the total losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale war have exceeded 1,181,000 personnel. In addition, the day before, Ukrainian defenders destroyed 2 tanks and 1 armored combat vehicle. They also took out 10 artillery systems and 50 units of automotive and special enemy equipment. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded 164 combat engagements over the past day. In the North Slobozhansky and Kursk directions, the Russian army shelled Ukrainian military positions about 170 times, including 3 times with multiple rocket launchers. 16 attacks were recorded in the Lyman sector of the front and 14 in the Oleksandrivka sector. 18 in the Kostiantinivka sector, and 20 in the Huliopole sector. The Pokrovsk direction remains the hottest spot on the front. There, Russian occupiers tried to advance toward the positions of Ukrainian units 53 times. A dentist by education and a combat medic by calling. These are the heads of the medical post of one of the combat battalions currently defending Kupiansk. Dmytro has been serving for over a year in the 5th Slobozhanska Brigade Skif of the National Guard of Ukraine. He volunteered for the war because he wanted to be as useful as possible. The guardsman told Natalia Belokudria about his first rotation in one of the hottest sectors of the front.
Enthusiastically wave your hand to greet someone. Restavshik, good job, smart one.
This is a video of one of the evacuations of the wounded from near Kupiansk in March 2025. Combat medic of the Skiff Brigade, Dmytro, was on duty and recalls how he had to save 3 soldiers from a neighboring brigade. We already knew what kind of injury it was and what we needed to do. Everything was already prepared in the vehicle. But it so happened that 3 more seriously wounded guys from the neighboring unit ended up with us. There were burns among them. There were shrapnel wounds. It was some kind of nightmare. We quickly figured things out, but it was these guys who ended up in our vehicle. Before the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, Dmytro worked as a dentist. But in 2024, he decided to change jobs and become a combat medic. By profession, I am a medic. I know that in this field, I can help the most. They listened to me, they heard me, and I got the opportunity to join my home unit. Why is it my home unit? Because I'm from Kharkiv. The unit is from Kharkiv, and that's how I ended up here.
Dmytro's first rotation in the Kupiansk direction lasted 9 months. That's a long time, the medic admits, but he felt like he was in the right place. And he's proud that every soldier he evacuated from the front line is alive. He says that to provide medical assistance, the evacuation vehicle has everything necessary.
This is more of a go bag. But it's more convenient because everything here is already fully packed. Everything that's in the vehicle is also right here. Tourniquets, bandages, packing materials, ampoules with saline solution, and even pills if needed. Everything is within our reach here, so it's convenient for the medic to work. Basically, the soldiers lying down and everything is accessible.
In almost a year of service, Dmitry has helped about 50 wounded. He says that during this time, there was only one case when he had to recall his dental practice.
When the soldiers find out that I used to be a dentist, they immediately have a lot of questions. Hey, what's going on with me here? They show me something. But as for providing emergency care, there was just one such case. Once, a serviceman came to me, and I poked around a bit in his mouth.
Dmitry hasn't decided yet whether he'll return to dental practice after the fighting ends. Maybe he'll say a military medic. He says that for now, he's using all his skills on the battlefield and is already preparing for a new rotation to the front.
The European Commission expects that Germany, France, and Italy will become the main guarantors of an emergency loan for Ukraine totaling 210 billion euros using frozen Russian assets. This is reported by Politico. The largest share, over 51 billion euros, is supposed to be covered by Germany. In turn, France will provide 34 billion euros and Italy a little over 25 billion. Such commitments will allow the European Commission to secure the support of all member states and to obtain the approval of Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever. This is necessary to allocate the loan, which, as a reminder, is intended to support Ukraine's economy over the next 2 years. The decision is expected to be made in the near future. The UN Security Council will hold an open session on Ukraine on Tuesday, December 9th. The proposal for the meeting came from Slovenia, and it was supported by Denmark, France, the United Kingdom, Greece, and South Korea. The meeting will begin at 5 p.m. Kyiv time, but what the main topic of discussion will be is still unknown. Sanctions have seriously hampered the production of weapons for the Russian Federation, according to analysts from The Insider. Currently, the Federation's capabilities for complex chemical processing are significantly limited, and in addition, Moscow has lost access to certain irreplaceable reagents from abroad. According to researchers, the production of rocket fuel has suffered the most. Andrea Dmitrenko will provide more details about the impact of these restrictions on the military-industrial complex of the aggressor country.
13 out of 49 Russian companies involved in the creation of the Iskander-M ballistic missile are not under sanctions, according to the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. The main manufacturers of the Iskander missiles, the Machine Building Design Bureau and the Watkins Plan, are already under restrictions imposed by most of Kyiv's partners. But the aggressor must be stopped by imposing sanctions on the entire production chain, the main intelligence directorate urges.
The weapons that Russia is using against Ukraine today could be used by it and its allies against other countries in the future. In particular, Russia has already helped North Korea modernize its KN-23 ballistic missiles, according to a publication by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on Telegram.
The propaganda of the aggressor country presents the supposed achievements of the Russian military-industrial complex, pointing to large-scale rearmament and increased domestic production. However, the main intelligence directorate regularly finds foreign components in the missiles and drones that Federation forces use to strike Ukrainian territory. Since 2022, the agency has analyzed 181 pieces of weaponry. They found more than 5,200 high-tech components from America, Europe, China, Taiwan, and Japan in them. An investigation by the Insider revealed the total dependence of Russian military enterprises on foreign chemicals.
The Russian military industry is critically dependent on the import of chemical products and components, catalysts, and chemical technological equipment. The production of fuel for military aircraft and missiles cannot do without foreign catalysts and additives, resin for detonators, and high-strength fibers for bulletproof vests, from a publication by the Insider.
Using complex parallel import schemes, Russia supplies critically important components and chemicals for its military-industrial complex. Analysts say they are sufficient for producing the existing range of weapons, but not enough for the development of the industry.
The ongoing war has profoundly revealed the real and undeniable value of this advanced military equipment and its inherent quality of this superior, innovative technology. It can't stand up to any criticism. After all, the country is technologically degrading without Western know-how, supplies of new types of equipment, products, and chips.
The decline of the Russian military-industrial complex is confirmed by the drop in Russian arms exports. According to the non-governmental research organization Jamestown Foundation, in 2022, the aggressor country earned $8 billion from arms sales, but in 2024, only $1 billion. Experts note that the defense industry has lost the last of its profits and is now completely dependent on government contracts.
It's clear that the tactical and technical characteristics and actual combat effectiveness on the battlefield, they are very different from the pretty cartoons made by Soyuz Multfilm that the authorities used to draw. So there's a big problem here. And really, the entire military-industrial complex now, for the most part, survives only on government defense contracts. Foreign markets are lost. Same story there. Right now, the US is actively pushing them out. Without injections, without this emission pumping, without printing money, without huge military spending, without budget infusions, without taxpayers' money being poured into the military-industrial complex, these companies become unprofitable and will go bankrupt, will be shut down.
In the Russian budget for 2026, 13 trillion rubles have been allocated under the national defense category. Spending on the security sector makes up almost 40% of all budget funds. This is a record since the days of the USSR. The same figures are projected for 2027 and 2028. This once again confirms that the aggressor country intends to continue hostilities and is not interested in a peaceful resolution of the war against Ukraine. Andriy Dmytrenko for Frida TV Channel.
They will form a unified position in negotiations to end the war and discuss the draft U.S. peace plan. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy arrived on a visit to London. He is already holding a meeting with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, as well as French leader Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Later, Zelenskyy will head to Brussels. There, the negotiations will continue in a broader European format. The participants in the discussion will include European Council President Antonio Costa, European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The negotiations on the peace initiative promoted by the United States are still stalled on key issues. First and foremost, regarding the future of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy stated this in an interview with Bloomberg. Among the points for further discussion is also a separate agreement on security guarantees from Western partners, the Ukrainian leader emphasized. There are different viewpoints from the US, Russia, and Ukraine, and we do not have a unified position regarding Donbas. There is one question that I and all Ukrainians want answered. If Russia starts the war again, what will our partners do? We are negotiating with the United States. This is constructive work, but there are issues that concern Europe, and we cannot make decisions for the Europeans. We need to discuss the process of Ukraine joining the EU with Europe. After all, this is also part of the security guarantees. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, in an interview with Bloomberg News. At the same time, the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Rustem Umerov, provided Zelenskyy with complete information regarding Donald Trump's peace plan. According to Umerov, over the course of several days, he and Chief of the General Staff Andrei Hanarov worked in the United States with representatives of the American president. The key task of the Ukrainian delegation at these negotiations was to obtain as much information as possible about the dialogue between the US and Russia and the Kremlin. I am grateful for the constructive work. The top priority for the Ukrainian team was to get complete information from the American side about their conversation in Moscow, and all drafts of the current proposals in order to discuss them in detail with the President of Ukraine. Together with all our partners, we must do everything to ensure a worthy end to this war. Rustem Umerov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Telegram. At the meeting between Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Ursula von der Leyen, they will discuss a reparations loan for Ukraine. This was announced today at a briefing in Brussels by the chief spokesperson of the European Commission, Paula Pinho. She also noted that, preliminarily, this issue had already been discussed with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever.
Negotiations are ongoing regarding the reparations loan, and they will continue until the European Council meeting next week. Their main goal is to reach a final decision and a clear outcome to support funding for Ukraine's needs in 2026 and 2027. As for more detailed information, we'll wait for the discussion this evening.
For tomorrow, December 9th, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has scheduled a visit to Rome. There, he will meet with Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. The day before, the leaders had a phone conversation, discussed the results of negotiations with the American side, as well as prospects for peace. In addition, Meloni noted that Italy will support Ukraine's energy infrastructure with the necessary equipment. Generators from Italian companies will be sent to Ukraine in the coming days.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.